Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Russ White. I'm the Executive Director of Lambda Business Association. We're waiting for Greg Moore's stream to catch up with us. We're having a little technical difficulty, so give us a few minutes. Our first presenter is going to be on at 11:30, so we want to give time for people to get connected and work out any technical issues. So we're going to be right back and see you in just a few minutes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Lambda Business Association's CandiDATE speed dating with our candidates for the general election in 2020. We have a great lineup for you. I'm going to be joined by our Lambda board president, Greg Moore, in just a second as he gets situated with his connection. And we have a great lineup for you. So we'll get going in just a second. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Russ. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? We had a few technical difficulties this morning, but I think we've got them all worked out.
Absolutely.
You want to turn your phone sideways?
Sideways. We can do that. Is that better?
That's better.
That's better. Okay. Away we go.
Alrighty. Well, we have a fast and furious lineup ready to go. And we've got three candidates on deck. So we are going to get started, and I'm gonna screw up her last name. I know for sure because she's already grinning that I'm saying it. Welcome, Heidi Amle. So I'm gonna go for that and see how I did.
That's better than a la mode. Somebody called me a la mode once. I'm 6 feet tall. I stay tall like a tree and covered in moss, so it's all mossy.
Almase, wonderful. Well, welcome, and
thank you.
The stage is yours.
Oh Lord, okay. Just by way of introduction, my name is Heidi Almasi. I'm a former City of Las Vegas judge. I'm running for Family Court Department X. My mom and I moved to Las Vegas in 1979. I went to school here. I am a high school dropout. I got my GED. I worked my way through college as a custodian for the Clark County School District. I have a Bachelor and Master of Arts degree from UNLV. My initial thesis research was AIDS-related behaviors and sexual knowledge before I shifted over to forensics and mental health. I've been living in Las Vegas for the last 41 years. For the past 25 years, I've been serving our community first as a state police officer, later as a prosecutor and judge. For the last 3 years, I've been working at Family Court. That's where I'm running. I work on an average of 300 cases per month. That's about 6,000 hours dedicated exclusively to family law. I have practiced civil, criminal, and family law. There's not a single day that goes by that I don't use my experience in all three areas in family court. We see folks who have substance abuse issues. They might have a mental health issue, a criminal or civil issue. All of those types of issues I deal with every single day in family court. So I have civil, criminal, and family law experience, and I use all of that experience in family court. I wanted to talk somewhat about the community. I've been a longtime ally, including an ally of equal rights and the right to marry. So one of the things that I hope I can bring to the bench is efficient decision-making that is experienced, but also compassionate. I'm the child of a single parent and also a single parent myself. And I've been a litigant in family court. I know how challenging it is. I know how intimidating it can be. And I really want to bring that to all of our families, and so everybody feels like they got a good decision that they were heard. So if you want more information about me, you can go to my social media, Heidi Almasi, for Family Court on Facebook, or Heidi Almasi, 4judge.com. Thank you.
Wonderful. Greg, do you have any questions?
I was just thinking about that. What is, with that broad background, what are some of the toughest decisions that you've been involved in?
Well, the hardest thing I saw, and it was while I was on the municipal court bench, was the mental health issue. I had an adult drug court, and then I started the city's first mental health court. So we see people coming in who have these issues, and I always like to say you can't arrest the addiction or mental health issues out of people, but by putting them in custody, you can make things worse for them. So we see the same thing in family court. We see folks coming in that have unaddressed substance abuse issues and mental health issues. So I'd like to be able to bring some of that experience and knowledge to the family court bench.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. My first date.
It's your first candidate.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next on our lineup is Tara Clark Newberry, and she is running for.
Hi, nice to see you, Russ. Hi, Greg. Tara Clark Newberry. I'm running for District Court Judge in Department 21. I have been a trial lawyer here in Las Vegas for over a decade, representing consumers in a multitude of types of cases. Prior to being a trial lawyer, I was a police officer and I worked as a community liaison. I was the first out police officer in the city of Cincinnati and became the LGBTQ liaison to Stonewall there. And so I started my dedication to justice and equality even before I was a police officer in college. I worked at the Disability Services Office at the University of Cincinnati and advocated for students with disabilities for reasonable accommodation with the newly enacted ADA from 1991. So I have dedicated myself to serving others, serving the public, serving the community, and the LGBTQ community. I have always found that change from within is one of the most important assets you can have in affecting change, which is why as a police officer, I came out even though it wasn't popular. I also was a plaintiff in the equality case in Nevada for marriage equality. And that was important. It also gave me an aspect of understanding what it's like to be represented by lawyers, not just advocating myself. I do understand what it's like to be in a courtroom as a participant and to be scrutinized, to be subject to that public exposure. Certainly being a police officer, I'm aware of the responsibilities you have as a public servant. I think that has well served me in preparing for being a judicial candidate and a judge. I also have served as a mediator for the state of Nevada's foreclosure mediation program, as well as the United States Bankruptcy Court. And so I have sat as a third-party neutral. So I think my greatest skills and what makes me the best candidate in the race for Department 21 is my unique life background. And if elected, I would be the first openly identifying lesbian on the bench. There are other judges across the country that, of course, have been appointed to the bench in the state as well, but I'm openly running. And so that would be a first in the 8th Judicial District Court. So I hope that not just because of that, but because of my unique background that qualifies me to sit as a judge, it also would be a step forward for the LGBTQ community for visibility. So that's why I'm running. I hope I will earn your vote. Happy to answer your questions. And to find out more about me, you can go to clarknewberryforjudge.com. You can read about my background as well as my legal experience. I'm endorsed by unions as well as veterans associations. I'm endorsed by Victory Fund, as well as numerous of the unions here in Clark County. I hope to represent everyone, but certainly LGBTQ community could count on me for that representation as well.
Great. Thank you for joining us today. It's so good to see your face. I know things are going on with family that you're having to deal with today. So we really appreciate you signing in.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions, Greg?
You know, one of the questions, district court, you mentioned civil. So what types of cases do you hear?
A district court judge would hear a mixed calendar. I have talked to the chief judge, Linda Bell, about the case assignments. And the predominant preference is for newly elected judges is to hear a mixed calendar, meaning you would hear both criminal and civil. There are specialty courts that evolve. They usually have more experienced judges that hear those kinds of dockets. So initially, I would be hearing both civil and criminal. And of course, having both a civil litigation background and a law enforcement background, I am ready to hit the ground running and completely prepared to take on that challenge.
Fantastic.
Awesome. We've got your website rolling across the bottom for just another second.
Thank you.
Want to thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank
we're going to move on to our next guest, which is Crystal Eller.
Thank you.
so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, good to see you.
You too. Miss you guys.
I know. We met at the Henderson Equality Center open house, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Quite fortuitous for us.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate that event was in the community center. Amazing, well run and much needed facility. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. So tell us a bit about why you're running and what you're hoping to accomplish with your campaign.
Okay, my name is Crystal Eller. I am running for District Court Judge in Department 19. As Tara Clark Newberry mentioned, this is a district court position. We hear both civil and criminal, at least initially. Right now, Department 19 hears civil and criminal. They also hear they're one of very few departments that hears complex civil litigation like construction defect cases that can involve millions of dollars with, you know, those big tract home communities and stuff like that. So I am the only, you know, candidate, including the incumbent, that has civil experience. He was a prosecutor right out of law school, and then the city attorney's office, then the DA's office, and then became a judge. I have 27 years of experience in civil and criminal work in Las Vegas, Nevada. As soon as I graduated law school, I moved out here. I've been here for 27 years. Kids were born and raised here. I come from a humble blue-collar background, not one of those people that was, you know, born and raised to go be a lawyer or a judge or a politician. Neither of my parents graduated high school. I put myself through college, working full-time, got a scholarship to law school, and specifically to the LGBT community, TQ community. My daughter, my youngest daughter, is transgender, and this was just revealed to me at Christmas last year, so I haven't known for a year yet. She's, I guess, has been working on it before that for about a year until she felt safe. And it's been an amazing year. The most incredible thing is how content and happy and positive she is now. Struggled for many years before, you know, me not understanding, you know, what's wrong? Why aren't you happy? Why don't you feel like you have a good life? You know, because on paper you do. And she figured it out, and now it's incredible. I didn't understand a lot of these issues that I do now, and I'm continuing to learn. And I think that for this community in particular, it's really important to get somebody on the bench, especially in this high district court position that understands the issues this community has. I have learned so much about the discrimination and the injustice that this community puts up with on a regular basis, because I wasn't part of it, so I didn't know, you know, and it's just a human nature, I think. And now that I've been going through this with my new daughter, and it's been amazing. And I'm really looking forward to using what I'm learning with her on the bench to round out my ability to be fair and competent and compassionate, and make sure that every single person who comes in my courtroom, no matter what differences they have from any other person that comes in my courtroom, is going to receive equal justice and is going to be heard, and their issues are going to be understood. So I hope I get elected.
That's such a heartwarming and compassionate story. It's great that we have such a supportive parent for we have oftentimes the community is the reinforcement because our parents understand.
Right. And it's my journey again. Like I said, it's been amazing, because you first start doing all the research, and you know, first there's a lot of stuff out there that says your kid's being brainwashed, your kids, there's something broken, you got to get them fixed, and you got to get through all of that as a parent that, you know, had a son and now has a daughter, and getting through sort of figuring out how to say goodbye, but yet realize this person is the same person, but a better version of themselves now. And the person that I always wanted her to be as a mother, that loves her and wants her to be happy. And so it's like kind of a shock. And then you go, wait, she's happy now. She's content now. She's positive and looking forward to her future. And for so many years, she wasn't. And I'm just like, wow, this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is not a scary thing. It's a positive thing.
It's always wonderful to be authentic.
Yes.
So, Greg, do you have a question?
You know, and thinking about all your
Crystal, can you turn down the volume?
Pardon?
Can you turn down the volume on your computer? We're getting an echo.
I'm sorry.
thinking about your
There we go.
and litigation and work, how has your daughter come to? How has that changed your viewpoint on any of the work you've done?
Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you, but it sounds like how's what I'm gone through with my daughter changed my viewpoint on work I've done in the past or moving forward?
Yeah.
Okay. I have always considered myself to be an extremely compassionate, open-minded person. I mean, if you ask anybody who's known me, they're like, you know, Crystal's the best listener I've ever known. She cares about people. She's non-judgmental. I have a mentor, a woman that I'm mentoring in the Hope for Prisoners program. And her biggest thing when she introduces me is, this is Crystal, my mentor, who's running for judge. And the best thing about her is she's not judgmental. So I've always felt good about myself because of that. But due to just pure lack of exposure to the LGBTQ community, it's not easy to say, it was just something I hadn't had to come to terms with on whether I would be skeptical or whether I would, you know, be critical even. So what I will do different moving forward is thankfully be able to now have personal experience with this community and to include them in everything I've already been. You know, not being judgmental, not jumping to conclusions, even, you know, even if you don't want to, I'm judging them right or wrong, but just, there's so much misinformation out there, and just jumping to conclusions about, because you're different, there's something wrong with you. And so I'm really looking forward to now including this community in a really personal way and the person I've already been, because they were just sort of a non-issue. I didn't think about it. And now I've had the chance to think about it. And I'm so glad that this part of the community, which again is so underrepresented and so horribly discriminated against, you know, and because of so many people's deep-seated roots and values, you know, I think you guys are really having a struggle, getting a stronghold, getting a toehold in helping people understand the discrimination that you guys struggle with. I drove back from Chicago with her to Las Vegas, and she was so excited that she wasn't going to be driving alone, because she said, if I was driving alone, I would have to dress as a boy, because I don't want to be a transgender female driving across the country alone. And I was like, whoa, like I never even thought about that. And so just I've expanded, you know, my community of people that I can know and love and work with and have compassion for. And I just don't think, just because of timing and age and everything, that there's just not a lot of people on the bench right now that have this experience. So I'm blessed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us and sharing such a wonderful story with us. Good luck in November.
All right. Thanks, everyone. My website's on there. Please check it out and ask me any questions you want. My office number's on there. You can call me and talk to me. I'm always going to be available. I'm very personable, very reachable. All my clients have my cell phone, so that is never going to change.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Jim Davis.
Hey, Russ. Hey, Greg. How are you?
Wonderful.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
So, I'm Jim Davis. I'm running for Family Court in Department X. I'm a native Nevadan, a combat veteran, 30-year resident of Clark County, but most important is I've been a family law attorney for the last 15 years. Family law is all I practice. I've had over 1,000 clients. About a third of those are probably members of the LGBTQA community. I am the former chair of the LGBT section of the Nevada State Bar and a member of the LGBT National Bar Association and the Family Law Institute. In my practice, I was one of the, did some of the first same-sex or second parent adoptions in the state. I've done over 100 open forums and lectures on, domestic partnership, on DOMA, on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, on marriage equality, estate planning, and I've appeared on local and national media for the LGBTQA community. And I missed Tara's interview. I think she was on earlier, but Tara Newberry and I are the only LGBTQA candidates that are currently in the race. We had 4, 2 didn't make it out of the primary. And we would be the first members of the LGBTQA community to sit the bench in Nevada, I believe, and definitely in Clark County. So I welcome all your questions. So go for it.
You know, one of the first ones that comes to me, Jim, is with your experience in the court system and everything that has been happening. Has it gotten better? Has it gotten easier?
Well, if you're asking specifically about the LGBTQA community, I think it has a little bit. I've actually taught continuing legal education classes at the Family Law Conference here in Nevada, specifically to the Family Bar, which meets about every other month, and then to our judges. So it's all about educating people on the struggles that the community is going through. And I think we've made great strides. 15 years ago, I never thought I'd be able to openly, run as a candidate for judge in Nevada. And the community's made such great strides. We still have a long way to go. But I hope by sitting on the bench, I can further that progress.
Fantastic. Likewise, I agree. Russ?
Gosh, I know so much already about Jim because we've been friends for so long. Why is it important to have an out elected official sitting on the bench?
Well, first of all, it shows the younger community that everything's possible. I served in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That was a struggle, and that switched a little bit. It brings diversity to the bench. I know that's a little strange hearing from an old white guy, but it does. And I still get calls from colleagues and from some of the judges' chambers asking about specific circumstances within the community. And so it's just one more step forward that the community can make to total equality, which we all strive for, and will be a constant struggle.
We appreciate all the credibility that you bring to the bench. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Any other last final comments for our speed date?
Well, I'll just, for those that are viewing, I kind of rushed through my intro. I'm also a pro tem hearing master in child support and enforcement court. I'm a small business owner. So I have the administrative, judicial, and litigation experience required to be a successful judge. I also have a master's degree in organizational management. And so if elected, I'm pretty sure my department will be organized. Some aren't. But I'll bring that to the bench with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thanks, guys. I look forward to watching the rest of the program.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Next up, we have Anna Albertson.
Hi, Anna.
Good morning. We can't hear you. Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Sorry, tech is not my thing.
Everyone's doing so well with this, though. Can you believe it?
This is fabulous. I was watching some of it on Facebook before I got in the room, and it's such a nice way to give people a brief introduction to some of the candidates without having to watch or dig through multiple things. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and not just as a candidate, but as a voter too, because watching everybody else talk is really important as well. I want to be as informed as possible when I vote. What'd you say?
I thank you so much. Now tell us about you and why you're running.
Sure. I'm a wife, mother, and small business owner. I own my own law practice called Legal Angel, which I opened in 2014 with the purpose of providing an office that would really care about the clients and their individual problems. And I wanted control over the clients that I took on. I wanted to be able to take cases that mattered. I was working for large law firms and large companies before opening my own practice. And I just felt like I could better serve the community and my clients, having my own business where I could take the cases that I wanted to take, whether or not they could pay for my overhead. You can always find cases to pay the bills. You can't always find cases with meaning. And the unfortunate part about working at some larger places is you just don't have the option of taking some of the cases with meanings that maybe won't provide any income. So that's what I've really liked about my own practice. I'm running in this department specifically because Department 17 needs a fair and impartial judge. I currently sit as a short trial judge. I'm appointed by the court to do that, as well as an arbitrator. And my goal when doing both of those things is to treat parties with fairness and justice, regardless of whether or not they're representing themselves or can pay for the most expensive attorney in town. That's so important that we have judges on the bench that don't change their rulings because of the attorney you're able to hire or because of the law firm that's representing you. We really need judges on the bench that do what's fair and what's right and what's best for our community. In my own job and now in my campaign, I've done my best to make efforts to be an ally. I think it's a work in progress for all of us. I don't always use the correct terms. I'm trying to learn all the correct terms to use, and but I have purposely used one of my main printers is one of your members, and I've looked for other businesses, minority-owned businesses, gay and lesbian-owned businesses, women-owned businesses that I could use for my campaign needs, because I think it's so important that we support each other as much as possible. I'm not going to say I know what it feels like to go through the world in your shoes, but what I can say is I do know what it feels like to go through the world as a woman. I was born a woman. It wasn't a choice. And there are certain times in life where I'm disadvantaged because of that. And it's important that we keep in mind that people don't always make choices for how they're walking through this world. And we have to understand that it's so important that we treat everybody with fairness and with dignity. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear your questions. I don't think that we've met previously, so please, whatever you want to ask. And if you have more questions for me later, I'll put my contact information in your chat so that any of your members can contact me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, it is the pronouns are an interesting aspect of our new vernacular. With my technical writing background in documentation, one of the things that I found super easy to just change to is just them and they.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really matter. If people have their preferred pronouns, great. If not, them and they always works, especially when you're trying to write documentation. And for so long, we would try and write it and say he or him or her or she in documentation just to kind of keep things balanced. And then if you just say they, it makes everything so much easier. Greg, do you have any questions?
You're running for district court, correct?
Yes.
And your background had been with large law firms. How do you feel that's going to really benefit you in that position?
Well, since 2014, I've run my own practice, which is a small, much smaller law firm where I do anything from pro bono criminal work to major civil cases as much as I can support it with my office. So I've got a big range of practice in my own office. And the experience I had before that working for large law firms and companies, I think I've got a better understanding than other candidates because I've done both sides. I've represented defendants previously, and I represent plaintiffs much more now in my individual practice. I think it's important that when you get on the bench that you do have a varied practice because although many of us have been litigants for whatever reason in our regular life, we don't always understand what it's like to be sued, to be part of litigation, how stressful that is. One of my big goals in my practice is to get people through litigation as fairly as possible with the best result possible so that they can move on with their life. We don't want to be prolonging cases, prolonging the legal fees people have to pay. One of the unfortunate parts that we see in our practice sometimes is a lot of lawyers get paid by the hour, okay? So there's an argument that it's actually to their benefit to continue your case as long as possible. That kind of behavior needs to stop. Okay, we need to get people through litigation with a good result and move on so that we can move on to the next matter, because there are so many important cases that need to be heard and need to be heard quickly because people's lives are depending on it. If not their freedom, their financial security. And both are extremely important to the litigant and frankly, important to our community as a whole.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you guys for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Judge Joanna Kishner.
Well, good afternoon, or almost afternoon. It's in about a minute. I'm Judge Joanna Kishner, and actually, you may recall, well, when you all used to have your meetings back in Commercial Center, used to go to several of those lunches. The place has changed, the area has changed, but let me tell you a little bit about myself if you don't kind of remember who I am. I'm fortunate to be your judge in Department 31 since this department was first created 10 years ago. And born and raised here in Clark County and raising my family here. My docket is civil with an overflow criminal docket, and I do construction defect. In fact, one of the reasons took a moment to get on is because I'm fully doing my dockets every single day, despite the pandemic, and so I need to take that work first. This year has been very challenging for a number of people, and I want to make sure that everyone gets fully taken care of. And that's very, very important to me, that everyone who comes into my courtroom is treated fairly, equitably, but they also get well-reasoned decisions that are fully researched by me and fully evaluated with a legal basis in the law. A little bit about my background off the bench. In addition to my legal work, I am on Legal Aid of Southern Nevada's Pro Bono Advisory Committee. I am on Boyd Law School's Executive Board of their Public Interest Law Foundation, and I'm on the Access to Justice Commission, and I also serve as the Board of Trustees of the Law Library, and I'm also on the District Judges Association. And for me, these community-based activities are so very, very important. I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about various experiences. Well, I teach it. I ensure that we do have access to justice for everyone in our courtrooms. In fact, I was fortunate to be named a distinguished jurist because of a program that I helped implement in the 8th Judicial District to encourage attorneys to take on pro bono cases. During the month of October is Pro Bono Week, and created a program basically where they got front of the line passes to have their matters heard first. Just because for me, it's not a matter of just talking about it or saying that I have experience, it's a matter of actually doing it. A little bit about prior to being on the bench, I worked as a CAP attorney. And in addition to my private practice, and I was working with abused and neglected children, I also was up for a national award for my prior law firm with regards to immigration. So for me, it really is very important to ensure that everybody has full access. A little bit more is my teaching. Way before Nevada recognized the diversity that we currently have in state law, I used to teach it. I used to teach employers and teach various individuals. I did training sessions so that people understood our diverse workforce and how everyone has to be treated fairly and equally, because that's so very important to me. So for me, it's really, I mean, yes, I could tell you I'm a member of HRC. I could tell you I was a member of Stonewall Dems. I could tell you, yes, I've gone to several of your lunches. I can name the individuals in this community that support me. I mean, including, you know, Laura Sussman, Wendy Kraft, you name it. I could tell you that I have two nieces, one that's gay, one that is just, she was born actually a triplet, Orthodox triplet, who is now, he is in the final stages of transitioning. But really, what you need to know is that I'm fair, equitable, and I ensure everyone in our courtroom is treated with respect, and I make well-reasoned decisions. And then I'm more than glad to answer any questions, because I would like to remain your judge in Department 31, Judge Joanna Kishner. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. What a great, I just love this whole format. It's going so well. Everyone's just being able to just do their speed dating and get in and get out. Greg, do you have any questions?
You know, with over 10 years experience as a judge, do you see doing anything else in the future besides continuing forward?
Well, for me, yes, I am one of those geeks. You could look in my high school yearbook and it would say that I was going to be a lawyer and a judge, because I like to help people. I double majored in college in political science and psychology and worked with autistic children. And I really like to be a problem solver, but yet have an impact in our community. And being a judge, I can do that. I've got my mediator's degree from our judicial college, so I do a lot of mediations in the court system as well. And truly, there's no other greater job where you get to learn and work with people each and every day, and you get to resolve people's issues in a fair and equitable manner. So the direct answer is I love what I do, and I hope to do it for a long time.
Wonderful. We look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you so much. Any other questions I can answer at all?
We don't have anything coming in online, so if people are online and they want to ask questions, they can post them in the comments and we can relay them here, and they'll be available if people want to follow up directly as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you for your time, and good luck in November.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Bida Yeager.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. So tell us about yourself and why you're running for Judge in Department 1.
Sure. So like you said, Russ, I'm running for Judge in Department 1. So Department 1 is a civil criminal court. So on the civil side, we're the trial court, and also on the criminal side, we're the trial court. So for criminal cases, we handle felony and gross misdemeanor jury trials. We do sentencings. We make decisions about custody. And on the civil side, we handle disputes that are over $15,000. So, you know, in talking about Chamber of Commerce, you know, business disputes will come into the civil court, contract disputes, construction defect, car accidents, you know, all sorts of those kinds of cases that affect our community members come into the civil criminal court. So, you know, a lot of people ask, well, what should we look for in a judge and why should we vote for you? One of the top things I would say is experience. I've been an attorney for over 25 years. For almost 2 decades, I was a trial litigator and team chief at the Public Defender's Office, where I defended people's constitutional rights. Then I was selected as a judge in Justice Court, where I handled a full civil calendar. So I did all those civil disputes that were under, at the time, $10,000. And then I was selected to be a hearing master for our district court. So right now, I handle the majority of our district court's mental health cases. So I do our mental health court. I created a co-occurring disorders court. I also handle our civil commitment court for those of our community members who are in a mental health crisis. And as part of that, also the assisted outpatient treatment court. So I have a very high volume calendar, and I come in contact with a lot of our community members. So in talking about experience, I've represented over 6,500 people. I've handled over 50,000 cases. I've been in court, you know, almost every day for the last 25 years. So I think I'm well prepared to be a district court. And in fact, the district court judge. And in fact, my job that I do now all over the state is actually not handled by a hearing master, but by a district court judge. So what I do now is on the level with what district court judges in our state already do. I will tell you that my experience has taught me that, our court system is about people, and I think that's incredibly important. In talking about more LGBTQ sorts of issues, I'm always very mindful of the fact that people want to be addressed in the way that they prefer. So, I will always ask, how would you like to be addressed? If there's a different name that they would prefer over the one that they were given, I think it's very important. And then, I was like reaching back into the kinds of specific cases that I've had that really have affected those kinds of situations. So as a young public defender almost 20 years ago, I represented a young client who he was 18 at the time, born female, identified as male, got a job at Albertsons doing in the meat cutting department. And because he identified as male, he opened a bank account in a male name and then got charged with a crime for obtaining money under false pretenses. Now, it was money that he had earned and, was putting into his bank account, and yet he was charged with a felony crime. So that to me was absolutely unfair and inequitable. And so I fought the case and ultimately was able to get that dismissed. Because something that I've always been about is fairness and equity. And I do feel like it is of utmost most important that people are treated with fairness and equity and respect in our courtrooms.
That's a wonderful story. I had not heard that case before.
Yeah.
Greg, any questions? We're running about 3 minutes behind schedule, so I wanted to get at least one question in.
Well, she answered the question with the story about the Albertsons individual. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if you have any other questions, or if any of your members have any other questions, feel free to contact me. I've got my information on my website, www.jaeger4judge.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a great day.
And next up, we have Nadia Crawl.
Hi, thank you, Russ and Greg, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with both of you and your members. I'm running for District Court Judge in Department number 4. Right now, it's an all civil department, and I have experience as a judicial officer in small claims court, 4 years, where most of the people couldn't afford a lawyer. So I'm very aware of dealing with people who are scared and don't know what's happening, but I have the patience to deal with it. I'm also a mediator with the Nevada Supreme Court and an arbitrator with District Court and an appeals officer with Las Vegas Municipal Court. So I have a lot of judicial experience. I've also been practicing law for about 20 years. And for the past 12 years, I've had my own practice where I've represented just regular people. And some of my favorite clients have been part of the LGBT community. One of the things that I noticed is that the people who are probably treated the worst in our society are some of the kindest and sweetest people in the world. And that's something that I've really experienced. Also, my best friend is transgender. So I know what she goes through on a daily basis. When Crystal Eller said that her daughter won't drive cross country, that she switches back because she's so afraid of being a transgender female, my best friend has that same issue. And there are issues that having a friend like that, I know what she goes through on a daily basis that other people may not know. And she's visibly, helping with my campaign. She's out, not trying to hide anything. And I think that visibility and acceptance of the LGBT community is something that needs to be worked towards. And for me, that's one of the biggest issues. I mean, I know the U.S. Supreme Court just recently came out with their decision, which was huge. And, this is something that might be even bigger than gay marriage as far as issues for the community, in my opinion. So, but visibility and acceptance are, I think, two of the biggest issues. And I would bring that to the bench, especially with acceptance, because I don't judge people and I appreciate all perspectives. So that's just in a nutshell about me. I know you guys are running behind, so this way I can kind of keep it together.
No, we're not that far behind. We want to give everybody their fair time. Greg, any questions?
You know, you're so district court for Department 4, you're going to handle that civil and criminal caseload?
Right now, it's all civil, but I have criminal experience, so I can do criminal as well. I can handle both.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is in your past? What is one of the tougher decisions that you've had to make?
Honestly, it's when a friend of mine appears in court, or when I'm an arbitrator and there's a friend of mine who's an attorney on the other side and having to rule against them. Because one thing as a judge is that I have to put my own personal opinions to the side, or my personal friendships, and just rule based upon the facts and the law that are in front of me. And it's very difficult to do. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's easy, or put biases aside and analyze, you know, this person I might be more sympathetic to, or this person I might not be, but to be able to recognize that and put it aside and just focus on the law and know that I'm not there to legislate from the bench. I believe in judicial restraint. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe that everyone should be treated fairly. I believe that Lady Justice is blind for a reason. And if elected, that's what I would strive to be like.
That's a interesting point and well taken, because most of us have those biases, and it's a challenge to deal with. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
It's a reality, and I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they'll just sweep it under the rug and say, no, I'm not biased at all. And I don't think that's realistic. I think when you walk into the courtroom, no matter who you are, whether you're a juror, you're a person being sued, you're there making a claim, or you're a judge, we all have biases.
Thank you.
And the more we can recognize it, the better it is. And I do also, want to make the offer, if anyone wants to be part of the campaign or volunteer, I'm always happy, because I love to increase visibility, and I would appreciate it if anyone wants to. I'm happy to talk to them.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Next up, we have Sarah, and I'm going to mess up this last name again too. Daniani? How did I do?
Really well, Dayani. Nice to meet you guys. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting this speed dating. What a great idea to meet candidates and get to know us.
Thanks. So tell us about yourself.
Sorry. So my name's Sarah Dayani, and I'm running for judge in the Family Division, Department P. The current judge is retiring, and I'm asking for your support and your vote so that I could be the next judge in Department P. For the last 12 years, I've worked exclusively in family court. I have some experience with drug court and truancy court, but I've always been with family court. I helped start the UNLV mediation program. It's a clinic where law school students mediate real family court cases under the supervision of an attorney, their professor. And it teaches them that not only does it help the community because it's another resource, but it also teaches these law school students that there's another way to resolve conflicts. I was also a truancy diversion court judge for 2 terms. And I was a member of the Truancy Summit Committee, where we talked about truancy. We wanted to get more kids on the right path so they would graduate high school and decrease the school to prison pipeline. During that time, I did extensive research, and Judge Jennifer Elliott wrote a grant with my research, and she obtained $600,000. She wrote the grant in 12 days because I had done and compiled so much research for that. And in speaking with this group, this community, I kind of prepared a little bit of something about LGBTQ rights in family court. There's same-sex adoption, divorce, annulment, requests to change the gender marker on a birth certificate. Allies must be elected to the bench and to various other seats in our government. We have to have a compassionate, fair, and respectful court that can put their biases aside. we've seen an evolution of the law in regards to the LGBTQ community. And it was just 5 short years ago that the Supreme Court issued a decision that allowed same-sex marriage. I was in family court prior to that, and there were judges on the bench that would not grant a same-sex divorce because the Nevada Constitution didn't recognize same-sex marriage. These issues come into play in family court. It's important to know your judges, to know the stances, and so that the evolution of the law continues to move forward in a progressive manner. A statement that resonates with me about the LGBT community is it's about love. It's about the right, and this is not a statement that's original to me. I've read it somewhere and it's just always resonated with me. It's about the right to love whoever you want, and it's about the right to love yourself and to be yourself. And I do want people to know that I am an ally. I want to see that things progress for equality in the right direction. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I think that's it. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon. We've tipped past noon.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting this forum.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Romeo Perez. And you're on mute.
Fix that.
There we go.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks so much for giving us an opportunity to talk to the voters. You know, it's really important to get the information out. I'm running for family court judge in Department Z because when family matters, experience counts. That's really the thing that I've been talking about all along is I want to be your first family court judge in Department Z because I've helped families from intake to trial for the last 22 years. And as my clients' needs grew, so did my practice. I've helped families with their divorce, child support, child custody, but I've also practiced in abuse and neglect cases and juvenile justice. And I'm going to share something with you that I hadn't really planned to do. I had something written up, but as I'm talking to my sister this morning, she tells me she's going through the foster care, learning how to be a foster parent. And I tell her I had my interview this afternoon. She says, you know what? They told us that LGBTQ children are the hardest to place. And it gives me chills again right now, just thinking about that I don't understand why that would make a difference, but it does. And I've worked in the abuse and neglect system for 22 years as a parent's attorney and as a child's attorney. And I'd never heard that. I'm saddened to hear that that's even an issue. And I mentioned that because I didn't know if anybody else knew that, but 3 of the judges that are coming in of the new 6 departments are going to be abuse and neglect dependency judges. If I'm assigned to be one of those judges, I want to know what I can do to fix that. I don't understand how that even exists. So I just wanted to put that out, guys. Getting back to what I wanted to say, you know, since I have practiced in all areas of family law, I think it's important to have a judge who knows the law, because it's important. The law tells us what to do, but it's up to the judge how we convey that information. A lot of times my clients will leave a courtroom and say, well, what happened or why, or the judge didn't even listen to us. And sometimes that's true. It's important for the judge to take the law, apply the law, but then to explain to the litigants why he made that decision. When judges give decisions and clients feel like they were heard and they were understood, whether they agreed with the decision or not, they can have closure. And that's so important. Closure is so important in family cases because many times people have to live with each other for several years after that, especially in child custody or child support cases. So I'm the best person in Department Z. I'm asking for your vote, your consideration, because I have the diversity, I have the cultural awareness, I have the ability to step in on day one and serve as your family court judge, and I would appreciate your support. Any questions?
Greg?
You know, just listening to your background and some of the what has been toughest involved with?
You know, easily some of the toughest decisions have been in my abuse and neglect practice. You know, that's a practice where I'm helping parents mostly in dealing with the abuse and neglect system. One of the stories that sticks with me the most is I had a trial where the two kids were in the courtroom to testify. My client didn't show up. They had a drug problem, and it was a bad drug problem. And it was a small county in South Texas. So at a break, the kids run out of the courtroom and run across the street to the trailer park where the parents lived. The marshal, the attorneys, we all kind of ran across with them. And the children were banging on the trailer door saying, "Why do you love drugs more than you love me?" And that story has stayed with me all of my career, because maybe because I don't have the drug problem, I don't understand how huge that is and how that affected the child so badly. And that's just a story that stuck with me for a long time. And so when I deal with my abuse and neglect clients, I take the drug issue seriously, all the substance abuse seriously, because I know it's not something that's easy for them to kick. Some of these parents are picking drugs over their kids. We just need to figure out how to resolve that.
Thank you.
Romeo, thank you so much.
Thank you, Russ. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks so much.
Up next, gosh, this is so amazing, isn't it, Greg?
It is.
Here comes Eric Johnson. Hey, you're on mute, Eric.
We'll try that again. It's good to see you, Russ, and good to see you, Greg.
Very good.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you guys for setting this up. It's good to see you. I wish we could be back to where we were seeing each other in person at the center during the regular monthly meetings. I've missed those, but you do a great job with the Zoom. You guys have got the technology down.
Thanks.
In terms of giving a little bit of background about me, I was appointed by Governor Brian Sandoval in 2015 to an open position on the bench. I've served since that time as your judge on the district court, our trial court, as the judge in Department 20. I was retained or elected to the position by the voters in Clark County in 2016. And currently I have both a criminal and civil docket. Previously, I was one of the first 4 judges selected to serve on the homicide panel the court created to handle all of the murder cases here in Clark County. I also was, at the beginning of this year, elected to be the civil criminal judge representative to the State Judicial Council, which reviews and handles and looks at different issues before the court. So those are sort of some of my experience on the bench. Prior to coming onto the bench, as I think you guys know, I was a prosecutor for over 30 years and here in Nevada, serving 10 of those years as chief of my office's organized crime strike force, and then the final 2 years as overall chief of the criminal division here in the state, where I tried to champion issues of taking guns out of the hands of violent criminal and drug traffickers, dealing with street gangs, both in white supremacist groups, and also working on child exploitation initiatives in terms of child pornography and the prostitution of children. So those were sort of the main areas that I looked at when I was a chief of the strike force and then chief of the criminal division. So I sort of have a broad background that I think I bring to the bench. In terms of the LGBTQ community, I have for the last 4 years, been a member of Lambda, one of the few government official members in the organization. I've tried to regularly attend the meetings and be available for people in terms of issues and concerns in the community. On the court, I handled one of the first, after the legalization of marriage in Nevada, I handled one of the first wrongful death cases involving a gay couple in which the partner or the husband sued for the death of their husband in an accident. I think I handled that case dealing with sort of what were new issues before the court in terms of jury selection pretty well. And I think that the result worked out well for the parties involved. I also am very much concerned with the issue of implicit biases, which is becoming, I think, a more and more significant issue with the court. There are some courts, such as the Federal District in Washington, that actually has made a movie to show potential jurors about implicit biases and how they're there and how they can work to avoid those if they become jurors. We don't have that kind of program set up here, but I have in my own court instituted a process where I talk to the jurors, potential jurors and the jurors, and go over at the very beginning of the trial the issue of implicit biases and how it's important that we recognize those. Because once we recognize them, generally we can put those behind us and be fair to the parties. So those are sort of some of the issues that I think I've been involved with as it relates to this community.
Fantastic. So with all the things going on in the world today, how do you balance that, or in addition to coaching your jurors on the biases, how do you approach that with the court?
I'm sorry, Greg, I'm not 100% sure I understand what you were shooting at, Greg.
Well, with everything that's going on politically and I guess civilly, with everything from Black Lives Matter to the different social issues that we have today, how does that affect your court?
Well, to be honest, and many of the issues that you talked about that have sort of rose up this year really haven't come into play in significant fashion in the courts, because we haven't had jury trials since the emergency went in on the pandemic. So we really haven't been working much with juries in terms of dealing with these issues in terms of social justice. Prior to that, I mean, the big issues that we deal with is the jury selection process and trying to make sure that we have jurors that we think can be unbiased. And then much of the issue in terms of ensuring that biases or subjects that aren't really relevant or are things that should be considered from a social justice perspective are handled in the jury instruction portion, which we work out with the attorneys during the course of the trial.
Really good to know.
Awesome. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Best of luck as you continue representing us in the courts. We're going to end our speed dating and get on with everyone else for the rest of our day.
Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys. All right.
All right.
We'll hopefully see you soon.
Thank you. Next up, another Johnson. We have Judge Susan Johnson. Good afternoon.
Hi, Russ. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Good. Very good. Well, thank you for having me. So you want to know about me?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Well, I have been your district court judge in Department 22 for almost 14 years. I was first elected in 2006 and then overwhelmingly reelected in 2008 and 2014 with over 82% of the vote in 2008 and over 75% of the vote in 2014. I currently hear civil and constructional defect matters primarily, but I also do hear criminal matters as well. I have been a resident of Clark County for almost 57 years, so I've been here a while. I graduated from Clark High School in 1977, UNLV with a dual major of public accounting and investment finance, and the degree was Bachelor of Science in 1982. And of course, I graduated from McGeorge School of Law of the University of the Pacific in 1985. I have been a member of the Nevada Bar and California Bar since 1985 and 1986, respectively.
Oh, we have a technical difficulty. We will come back to Susan in just a moment. Oh, it looks like she's coming back on.
There we go. You know, it seems to me one of the judges named Johnson said to just mark Johnson anywhere it appears on the ballot would work out.
Sorry, we lost you there for a
I
second.
think he's. I don't know what happened, but in any event, I have over 35 years of experience. I am AV rated as a lawyer. And by the way, prior to becoming a judge 14 years ago, I was a lawyer for 21 years with, of course, 21 years of trial experience. I tried as an advocate more than 10, 20, 30, 40 trials. And as a judge, I've heard hundreds and hundreds of trials. So I have certainly a lot of experience. I am a volunteer in the community. I am a member of the Junior League of Las Vegas, Rotary International. In fact, I currently serve as District 5300's Foundation Chair, where we are over 63 clubs. Wow. And I also am a member of various other organizations, or have. The Howard D. McKibben chapter of the American Inns of Court. I was president of that. I'm a few years ago in any event. I'm going fast because I'm afraid my thing will you out again. So I am married to Eric for over 33 years, and we have two terrific adult daughters, Tess and Emma. And one of the things we enjoy doing for fun is we like to travel around the country and internationally and run marathons and half marathons. So that's what we like to do for fun.
Wow.
Any questions, Greg?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck in November at the polls. And we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Well, and thank you, Russ and Greg, for having this awesome way to get to know the voters and hopefully get them to know me.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Clark High School graduated a lot of really impressive career people over the years. I graduated from Western, so.
All right, next up we have Adriana Rincon. And unmute your, there we go. We've got you unmuted and ready to go.
Hi, Russ and Greg. My name is Adriana Rincon White. Very nice to meet you. I am a candidate for Family Court Judge Department W. And to start off with what you were just talking about, my husband is currently a teacher at Clark High School. So I'm proud to be part of that legacy here in town, right? I currently serve the residents of Clark County as a hearing master in Dependency Court. This is the court that hears child abuse and neglect matters. I was appointed in 2018. I make decisions every day that impact our community and actually have a great impact in the LGBTQ community. We have a lot of foster youth who unfortunately, when they come out to their families, are neglected or abused to a certain extent, and they come through the courtroom. So I have been involved in the community looking for resources that support youth in that topic and in their development. So I am very interested in the community at large. I volunteer a lot in a food pantry and also in my children's school. I'm a mother to 2 young children. Prior to my appointment to the bench, I was a family law attorney for over 10 years, and I represented thousands of clients in all aspects of family court. Many in the community think family court is just divorce and custody, but they forget that there's juvenile delinquency, that there's name changes, adoptions going on, guardianships. So there's a lot of going on in family court, and I'm excited to run in this position and continue serving Clark County.
Wonderful. Any questions, Greg?
Not that I can think of right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. I'd like to add that in family court, people come in on their worst day, right? Whether it's the end of a relationship or children being removed from homes or your youth being involved in a crime. So it's very important that everyone gets treated with dignity and respect during the most difficult time, but that they also get their cases decided in a timely fashion and by someone who is decisive. So while a lot of my decisions are not popular ones or very difficult ones to reach, I have no problem doing that. And I also do it with great care so that people have closure and can move on with their life.
Wonderful. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Next up, Michael.
Hello, Russ. And
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I had a little problem with the computer. I'm on my phone. I apologize. The picture's not as good as I would have liked. But I appreciate you organizing this, because it is important that the community learn about the candidates. Too often in judicial races, I've heard that people just pick the first person on the ballot, or the name sounds good, or what have you. We have voter fatigue because there's so many judges running. So I appreciate that. And by the way, I'm from Clark High School. Greg, I won't hold it against you that you're a Western Warrior. Okay. That was our big rivals.
There you go.
Back in the day. I am the sitting judge right now in Department 17. I have been on the bench for the last 13 and a half years. In 2007, there was an opening on the bench because judge at the time, Mike Cherry, ran for the Supreme Court and won. So in the middle of his term, there was an opening in Department 17. I went through the judicial selection process. I believe there were 17 applicants. The panel selected the top 3 finalists, and then we were interviewed by the governor, and I was appointed by the governor of the state of Nevada to the bench. And I've been on the bench since April of 2007. Prior to taking the bench, I was a practicing attorney for 25 years, handling both civil and criminal cases. I believe that if you want to become a judge, that you should get the proper training and background. And so as a practicing attorney, I was an alternate municipal court judge for 4 years. I was justice of the peace pro tem for 6 years. I was an arbitrator for 13 years, 357 arbitrations. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that the State Bar Nevada appointed me to the Fee Dispute Committee as well as the Disciplinary Board, because as you can imagine, in this day and age, that ethics sometimes are lacking. And I really appreciate the opportunity to serve the bar by being on the Disciplinary Board to deal with individuals who are accused of breaching their ethics. And on the board, we made recommendations and we made determinations as far as someone if they violated the rules of ethics. Since taking the bench, I've had a split calendar of civil and criminal through 2018. And we talk about experience, and one of the things that I think everyone would say, it's a cliche, justice delayed is justice denied. In 2018, handling a civil criminal calendar, I had the #1 clearance rate of all judges. I moved my cases along, gave the people their time in court, and also from 2007 through the end of 2019, I had the second highest number of jury trials that I conducted of all the judges. So I had one of the highest clearance rates, or the highest clearance rate in 2018, the second highest number of jury trials. I've been on every single conceivable committee that you can think of on the judge, statewide committee I'm on the sentencing commission, legislative committee. I've actually been on each committee selecting our hearing masters. I know you've talked to a couple of your hearing masters here, and I was on the committee actually selecting those individuals. Presently, I am one of 4 judges who have been assigned to hear all the homicide cases in Clark County. There's about 200 homicide cases pending. 4 of us who are handling those. 2 of the judges, Judge Herndon and Judge Adair, are retiring. So there'll be 2 of us left on the committee, and hopefully we'll get 2 more, because 2 of us can't handle 200 murder cases. As a practicing judge, I've been selected 4 times by the National Judicial College to be a discussion leader for the 2-week course for brand new judges from all around the country. We call it Judge School. And so I was part of that program. And also I was selected by the National Judicial College to be a discussion leader for advanced ethics for judges, as well as advanced search and seizure. I believe that, as judges, as people in the political eye, need to get out into the community. I'm a strong supporter, and I've been involved with the Inspiring Children's Foundation, and it's a foundation for kids here in Clark County to keep them on the tennis court, out of the court, if that makes sense. So we want on the court, not in the court. And so I've been involved with that, and through the organization, they've been able to provide, I think, 110 full-ride academic scholarships for the participants. And also, for 4 years, I was the only judge involved in what's called the Court Watch program. And it dealt with some of our judges from juvenile court, young kids who were in the juvenile court system, where the judges there thought that they were borderline as far as getting re-involved in committing, crimes. They were assigned to come to my courtroom, watch a criminal calendar, and after the calendar, I would meet with them, their guardian or their parent, and talk to them about turning their life around. And during that 4-year period of time, there was a 100% success rate of those young individuals not committing new crimes before their 18th birthday. So I'm, particularly proud of being a part of that program. And just real quick, my background: I've been a 6-year resident, went to Hyde Park, Clark High School, UNLV. So I'm a homegrown boy. Moved here when I was 3 years old. I am married. My wife and I have 6 children. We have 7 grandchildren here. And so that's a little bit about me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
I was going to ask, what was one of the most rewarding facts of your career, but I think you may have shared that with us.
Well, some of the things of community service, but before taking the bench, there was a young gentleman that was attacked at one of the hotels. He had a workers' comp case, and they denied coverage, saying it was a personal activity. And unfortunately, he became a paraplegic as a result of a beating he sustained at the hotel and casino. I represented him pro bono, means I didn't charge him anything, and we were able to get him workers' comp coverage, able to get him coverage, compensation for a resident, van, and also were able to get his mother as his caregiver, because they just wanted to send a stranger to this gentleman's house a couple hours a day, and that was not going to satisfy his needs. And so I was able to assist with getting his mother appointed as a caregiver. And so I didn't earn a fee because it just wasn't right. But it just, every time I think about it, just warms my heart, because it's such a nice gentleman, and it's such a tragic event that happened to him.
Thank you so much.
What a great story. Thank you so much for joining us. Next up, we have Jasmine Lily Spell.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Jasmine Lily Spells. I'm your candidate for District Court Department 23. And I am running for judge because I think that this time in history requires that we have judges who are both transparent and accountable, judges who respect individuals, and judges who understand experiences different than their own, but who are also culturally competent. And I am exactly that person. For over a decade, I've been practicing criminal defense, protecting our constitutional rights, and giving the voice to the voiceless. I am the wife to a Navy veteran. I'm the mom of 4 young children. I am currently also a homeschool mom with 3 school-age children. And one thing that really motivated me to look at the law is when I was 16 years old, my favorite cousin died during a very tragic incident in California. And it forced me to take a look at how the law works and how the law treats individuals and what punishments there are, how people receive kind of wholeness. I kind of came face to face with that again when in April of this year, another cousin of mine, also in California, who suffered from a mental illness, died during a interaction with law enforcement. And so some of the things that are extremely important to me are one, making sure that a courtroom is a place where there's respect and dignity, where that's commonplace, and people are treated fairly, where they are not discriminated against, or where decisions are not based upon who can buy the judge or a power play. I am an individual who has the courage to make the tough decisions, the integrity to make those decisions without regard to self-interest, and the commitment to our community. I am a supporter of comprehensive mental health within our community and training within our agencies to ensure that when people have crisis calls and crisis management, that the officers feel equipped to be able to respond to those incidences, and that they feel that they can be of assistance because they have engaged in the proper training, and that they're not left cold, having to respond to these calls without having the tools that they need to do so. Additionally, I am very committed to our community. As I indicated, I am someone who regularly volunteers. My passion is children, and so I have sat on task force teams for our local schools. I've sat on the site organizational team. I've also served in the PTA for 3 years on the executive board, and I have been a part of organizations that have implemented programs to have guest readers within the schools prior to COVID at-risk schools, and also implemented a program where at-risk children or children who are attending at-risk schools can receive books to further their education and be able to read more. I am accessible, and I'd love for you to learn more about me. I am open to questions. I can be reached via phone at 702-907-5565, or you can always reach out to me via email. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck in the polls.
Thank you. Did you have any questions for me?
Greg, do you have any questions?
One of the things that I was going to ask, with all the community involvement and everything, what's one of the more inspiring moments that you're looking at these days?
That would be twofold. Within my job capacity, we work a lot with the community, and oftentimes I get to try to assist people to become whole, productive citizens. And so I had a particular client who, when I first obtained the client, was suffering from a mental illness and was unable to communicate, was actually wiping his or her jail cell with their own urine. And I think that is really a level where most of us can't imagine being so, out of our minds to where we are doing something of that. Fast forward, we're able to get this person services. We're able to look at the mental health and get them treatment. That person was able to get dressed, speak coherently, hold intelligent conversations, be a caregiver to that children. And I think that that's really important, because that one moment did not define that person, but getting the person the services that they need made them a part of our society, made them respected, made them, someone who people would communicate with, and they were able to have some dignity. That's extremely important in our courtrooms, that we are giving people the ability to be heard and have that dignity. Within my personal commitment to the children, really just seeing children excel, take pride in their work, and being able to move forward. A lot of children maybe don't have a role model, and they feel that they are unable to attain a job or attain any level of success because they don't know what that looks like. They don't have anyone who's talked to them about that and shown them. And so hearing the stories of what they want to do when they grow up, what their plans are, and just seeing that motivation is instrumental to me, because I think that children are our future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
We have just a few minutes for a couple of announcements. Greg, do we have anything that we need to let the community know about?
Nothing specific, other than just to take a moment and say thank you to that fabulous board of directors that we have. Marielle Landry with Affordable Cremation, and Pam Jones, our treasurer, and Pam Jones Law, of course. Eric Abram with CPR training and certification, Alon with commercial real estate, and Terry Wiltsey with Answer on Travel. Richard Sheffield with Sheffield Spice and Tea and Mass Mutual, and Frank Herman, our engineer and secretary. Gary Vrooman, our with Palm Mortuary. Sergio, of course, Russ White. My name is Greg Moore. Been a wonderful experience. Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, Greg. I was checking on a couple of things. I wanted to see when sample ballots will be mailed out. That information is available on the Secretary of State's website. It looks like for most of the state, the ballots will get mailed out mid-September. Washoe County is going to be early October. We do not have a date yet for Clark County, so that's still pending, and that affects most of our viewers in particular. This election will be mostly mail-in, but all voters will have the option of voting in person either during early voting or election day. So the must mail-in or mail-in requirements it's not a mandatory mail-in. We're just trying to get as many ballots in by mail. Early voting is going to begin October 17th and run through October 30th. And that's one of the reasons we're having this session in our September luncheon instead of our October luncheon, is because we do have mail-in ballots and we wanted to get people informed on issues and candidates on the ballot early rather than wait for our October luncheon, in which case some people may have already mailed in their ballots. But yeah, early voting starts October 17th, so just about 6 weeks away.
And Russ, I'd like to add, you can mail in the ballot. I know there's tremendous amount of conversation around that in the media, but you can also drop it off. I usually have done that of recent. Super easy. They've got a drop box at the Clark County Government Center down there, so easy to walk in, drop it off, and it got to the right place. Early voting, mail works fine. Vote early, but don't vote often.
But don't vote often. I also wanted to bring up one of the initiatives on the ballot this year relates to same-sex marriage. And while same-sex marriage has been legal because of actions that the Supreme Court took 5 years ago, this referendum on the ballot is still very important because it changes the Nevada Constitution to allow for same-sex marriage. And the importance of this is the role, if anything were to roll back with a future Supreme Court or a future administration, that Nevada would still have it legalized in our Constitution. So it's important to vote for that referendum. If this does not pass, this keeps coming up year after year after year after year because of our legislative cycle and how our Constitution gets changed. So it's an important final step in ratifying the change to our Constitution. So next up, we have Michelle Tobler.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about why you're running and what you're running for.
Okay, my name is Michelle Tobler, and I am running for Family Court Department I. I'm running because I want to serve my hometown community. I was born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is my home. I love Las Vegas. I love our community. I think we have a great community, and I think this would be a good opportunity to serve my community. For the past 4 years, I've been serving as a hearing officer for the Department of Family Services, hearing appeals of abuse and neglect cases. And through that work, I realized how important family court is and what a difference it makes in people's lives.
Greg, do you have any questions?
And remind me again, what had you done before family court?
I've been practicing law here in Las Vegas for over 24 years now. I went to law school at Golden Gate University in San Francisco, California, passed the bar there, but knew I would always come home to practice here in Nevada. So I passed the Nevada bar the next year, and I've been practicing here in Las Vegas ever since. I've been practicing mainly in civil litigation in various different areas of the law. Also, for the past 10 years, I've been an arbitrator for the 8th Judicial District Court for their mandatory arbitration program. And in both of those roles, as an arbitrator and as a hearing officer, I hear cases just as I would do it if I were a judge. It's a more simplified procedure, but I hear live testimony, I consider documentary evidence, and then I'm the one who makes the decision on the case. So that's what I've been doing for the past 24 years here.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we really appreciate all of our presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to your members. I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next and final guest is going to be Jessica Peterson. I'm waiting for her to turn on her camera and then we can add her in. Here we go. There we are.
Good afternoon, Russ. Good afternoon, Greg. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm on my cell phone because this was kind of a last minute, got the invitation. I was out of town, so I didn't bring my laptop into the office with me, and my the one that my office provides doesn't have a camera on it. So there you are.
You look great. Everything's working just fine.
Great. Glad you can hear me. So I am running for District Court Department 8. It is currently an all civil bench. However, as some of the candidates have mentioned, a lot of the times the preference is for there to be for new judges to handle both civil and criminal matters. I've been a practicing attorney for the last 20 years. The last 13 I've been in Nevada. Before that, I was in Michigan for 7 years. I moved out here in 2007, and I've been with the Flangus Law Firm since I moved out here, handling all sorts of cases from civil misdemeanor matters all the way up to complex civil litigation cases in the district court against the FDIC, and pretty much everything in between. The only thing I haven't handled are bankruptcy and, I mean, I've handled one Social Security case, so I can't say that I haven't, but bankruptcy and Social Security are probably not in the mix, but everything from personal injury, small misdemeanor, criminal misdemeanor matters. And so I'm well versed. Defamation cases, torts, personal injury, family law, guardianship, probate, everything in between. So with what's going on, there's a huge backlog of cases. I would be able to step in and not only help with the backlog, I would be able to potentially take settlement cases and help with other judges' cases and move those cases forward once we're able to go back to jury type of cases. I've been a court-appointed arbitrator since 2016. In that role, I've served essentially as a judge. I've been appointed over 140 times and rendered 30 decisions. One of the things that I really like to focus on is to make sure that the litigants understand the decisions that I render and that all of the facts are taken into account, all of the law is taken into account, and that I write my own decisions, and I write decisions that are fair and balanced and that are understandable, because a lot of the times I have improper litigants and you use big words with them and they don't understand, and then they get frustrated, and so that's the same kind of experience that I'm going to be able to bring to the bench. I looked it up the other day. I've taken 10 cases to trial or administrative type of hearings, and that's not because I'm afraid to try a case. It's because I'm really good at seeing both sides of an issue. I've represented plaintiffs and defendants, businesses and individuals, and I've always wanted to make it my mission to get them through the process as fast as I can, as economically as I can, and with a good result for them. And so I endeavor with all of my cases to look at both sides of an issue and to be fair and objective when trying to advise my clients. And that fairness and that objectivity is something that I will be able to bring to the bench. Very involved in the community. I've been a board of directors member for the Rape Crisis Center. I was a truancy diversion judge, and I am currently a Rotary member and served as the past president of the North Las Vegas Rotary as well. And in my spare time, I like to paint and actually donated 2 of my paintings to the center. So I don't know if you've seen them on the wall, but there's a couple of 4 paintings that I did for you guys for having me at your lunch the last time that we were able to get together. So.
Fantastic.
You're on mute, Russ.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much. I'm going to go look for those at the center. I've got a meeting there later this week.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions for me?
What is looking at it, what defines a good settlement or a good outcome to you? What does that mean?
It means that not necessarily, well, you'll hear it a lot of the times, people will say neither side got 100% of what they wanted, is generally speaking a good settlement. But if you can walk away knowing that you got the majority of what you wanted, that there's not going to be buyer's remorse in the future, that you can meet the settlement terms of whatever sort of settlement agreement that you made, and that you're not going to have to continuously be back in court and you can move on with your life, I think that that's a good settlement.
I appreciate that. We heard that term used a couple of times today, and I appreciate you sharing your opinion on what that means. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
else, gentlemen?
I don't think so. We're speed dating this morning and afternoon away. So thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
And I probably took a little bit longer because I knew I was the last one. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Greg, we just went through 18 candidates.
That is fantastic. And I really appreciate everybody that took the time to share with us.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We do want to remind people that the Las Vegas Spectrum puts out, or Las Vegas Nevada Impact puts out a progressive voter guide, and that will be part of the Las Vegas Spectrum next month. That will have all the information on who to vote for a progressive candidate list. And we really, I had an interview with Senator Pat Spearman a few weeks ago, and she could not express enough how important voting in this election is. So it's important to get out to vote. It's important to register now. You still have time to register. Ballots should be mailed out within the month, and voting begins October 17th.
Very important. Life-changing for all of us.
Oh, we have someone that just hopped on, so we're going to add her in real quick. Hold on 1 second. Good morning, good afternoon. Hi, so glad you could join us. Tell us who you are and what's going on, what you're running for.
My name is Carly Kearney, and I'm running for judge in District Court 2. I am the daughter of 2 teachers, so I decided to be a public defender, and then that interest in public service got me to the point where I am now, which is running for judge in District Court 2. I decided to run for this seat because of something that happened in a jury trial in front of the incumbent, Judge Scotty, where we were questioning jurors for a trial, and he became upset with one of the jurors' answers, a pediatric nurse who said she didn't think she could be fair in the case. And he ended up swearing at her and throwing a book at her. And so in that moment, I decided that I was going to run for that seat. And so that's what I'm doing. I've been endorsed by many of the labor unions in town, including SEIU, Culinary, AFL-CIO, to name a few. I did get the endorsement of the Spectrum in a very nice write-up for the primary. After the primary, I was in first place in my race by over 7.5 points over the incumbent.
Wow. That's amazing. So, Greg, any questions real quick?
No, I think she took care of the inspiration for why she's running for judge. That's great.
Yes. I've got that part nailed. The getting here on time and not getting stuck in court part, not so much, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, absolutely. We were just about to sign off, and I saw you pop into our studio, so I wanted to get you in real quick.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
And that's it. 19 candidates in just almost hour and a half, I think.
Very good.
Coming up close to 2 hours.
Yeah. It is truly an amazing opportunity to be here. So thank you so much, Russ, for all you've done.
Thank you for co-hosting with me today. And behind the scenes, Garrett's been helping drive this whole presentation. It takes a team to do this type of a production.
There we go.
And so thank you all for everyone who's joined us live. This will be on our Facebook page, on the QLife YouTube channel, and on the Lambda website for the duration of the election.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.